All right, welcome to lesson 17. You'll note that I have skipped over 16 because it's a repeat of it's a repeat to revisit, and so is this one of the generator and reactor concept. What I'm going to do for this particular lesson is actually show you a couple of videos that are really super cool, super interesting. H radio 223 part timers. Again, if there are any questions or if there are any, whatever it is, discussions you might have about the material or the subject itself, right? Radio 2, then please let me know. And I'd love to obviously continue having conversations as long. Just to note, like as you can see with this particular lesson, it's pre-recorded because this is Easter weekend. So pre-recorded material. We would have seen each other in class on campus. Any other in other alternative realities, I suppose that doesn't really make sense, but you know what I mean. But because obviously you just had a pre-recorded videos lessons, right? Pack that was for this just this previous week. Now there'll be these pre-recorded lessons here, and then there will be pre-recorded lessons just before we do or we go on a break. I just need to confirm that I have actually sent out a mail to Grant to find out if there is upcoming class on the 6th. Is it 6th? Let me just quickly have a look here. Okay. Excuse me. Where are we now? Yeah, so the 6th, that's right. Which I know is when your formative week starts. I get that. But I'm going to just check because obviously we do have class, as you know, during the week that is scheduled. So it only makes sense that I would upload some more videos for you for the 6th. Anyway, let's focus on this week particularly, and let's focus on this lesson right now. Lesson 17, again, it goes in accordance to Beyond Powerful Radio, which is from Valerie Geller's textbook. And we are still looking at voice and performance. Chapter 2, Are You a Generator or Reactor? Page 9 to 12. You'll note that it's so when we are looking at through the activities is one thing, but you see there clearly it says there revision, right? So when you are looking at the notes themselves, the slides, you'll see that there is, again, that whole kind of trying to decide whether you're on the one spectrum or the other spectrum, a generator or reactor. Noting once again, generators are quite rare, and because of the nature of how they create content and how they conduct themselves within the radio space is quite particular, kind of that, again, centering it around that, I can create anything from a blank page, which is not really everyone's cup of tea, I suppose, to put it bluntly, but reactors are more common. So, you are able to come up with a lot of content, a lot of ideas, a lot of comments, whatever it may be on air, by uh, the just the basis of knowing that there is something to start it off with. So that you're seeing an article, you're hearing someone say something, and so you can then kind of springboard from there onward. And then we'll see that, again, that whole thing of, well, that classification between the two, as you will recognize over here. And then again, most people out there are reactors, right? And then just to quickly note is, again, kind of focusing, which is a very big I'm just saying a norm in radio. It's just noting that when we are managing talent, it's different people with different talents, different personalities, and because we'll say, look, we'll accept the fact that people are different, and we must treat them differently, manage them differently, because this is a person driven, so it's a people driven industry, people driven product, and you won't find that obviously in other companies. We don't really care about your personality and how it decides it's going to fit into, let's say, an accounting firm or a logistics firm or a whatever, a bank. We want actual people that are only executing or showcasing their skills, whatever it is, applying their skills. But in radio, it obviously makes sense that we go and just let this go. A little bit of summary over there. And then here is the activity. First of all, for yourself, and this is the thing, it looks quite easy, quote unquote. I'm going to just put this, I think that needs to be reactor. That makes no sense. Excuse me. Still dealing with problems with my throat. All right. Which on a personality is a generator and which on a personality is a reactor? We had discussed some people before, and it is quite, I suppose, it's a large request here. It's a broad request from us to ask you, well, how do you know who a generator is? It's quite easy as a reactor, uh, because you're not really seeing them in the element and their entire work process, the way that they're obviously coming up with the content, whatever it may be, right? And we're only getting the end product, but you know, 10 to 1, like I did showcase focus on certain breakfast personalities, right? And we mentioned Anele before. Anele sits here in the reactor column, I would suppose, the column I'm saying. But she is definitely a reactor, as we said, very good at, and obviously shines particularly because she's got other people to bounce off, right? A generator, on the other hand, doesn't make Frankie necessarily a generator in that case of the obviously the club there. They could both be reactors, but I mean, I know Frankie. Frankie is more of a generator, just in general, because I know his work, like his work ethic. In other words, not these two different people, Anele and Frankie, have two different work ethics, right? But he is much more creative, right, and can come up with things, again, from a blank slate. If we look at people like, again, just because I'm just going to reference like people like Martin Bester, uh, definitely more a generator as well. And you can go and have a look at some other, like I say, I'll look at the breakfast and the drive jocks in particular of commercial stations for the moment, trying to kind of like classify them, uh, categorize them there. For yourself, we'll kind of revisit this just in class. But for yourself, you can start thinking once again, where do you fit? Like, is it again a combination of the two, but more leaning one way or more leaning the other way, generator or reactor? We did say it's healthy to be a bit of a hybrid because that's how people are. They're not polars, right? So you can break into pairs, right? We'll do this in class, and each must ask the other questions to identify what traits they have, right? And again, you can do this on your own. Ask yourself, take a bit of a paper, and just list up there your personality traits. Try to kind of class yourself, categorize yourself. Um, and again, perhaps maybe a friend, maybe from a bird's eye view, I would say from outsider's perspective, and then be okay. Okay, cool. I'm gonna try guess, and then I'm gonna go and find out here. And then yeah, reconvene. Obviously, we'll do this again. We'll check how many of you are generators, how many are reactors, but making sure that you can back it up, right? And not. I want to say that I said that quite seriously. You just to explain why. All right. So what I want to do then is for, like I said, just the remainder of this lesson, there are 3 videos I want to show you. I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'll just open them. So here, there we go. Oh, no, 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 it's not. Hold on. Share sound. Let me not forget that. Okay. So first of all, I thought what would be nice is to actually have a look at this one over here, which is about the creative process, right? Wish I had thought of that. Let's have a look. What? Come on.
the business is important, isn't it? And the transmission and all that engineering stuff. But at the end of the day, radio is about ideas and content. And here's a man who makes a living by having good ideas. How do we all get to be as good as you, Sam?
Wow, what a question, Trevor Dan. Well, I've heard you're a professor. Is that true? So how do we all get as good as you?
It's an honorary title. Anyone can have one when they're my age.
Can they? They just hand them out here, do they? Right, okay. Look, I did a presentation earlier just about just really simple principles on creativity. I think we've got a myth in our culture that creativity is something that only special people have. But in actual fact, all creative people just have a process and follow a simple process. And that's what I've got. That's what all the great people that we work with at SCA just have really simple habits that they practice around creativity.
Tell me this. A lot of commercial radio all around the world is a record and then perhaps another record and then, hey, let's play a third record, perhaps a fourth one, maybe let's do 10 in a row. There's not as much creative thinking as you would expect there to be in a business which needs to attract new people. Would you agree with that analysis?
Well, you know what, in Australia it's very different. Like in Australia, all the successful stations are playing less music and doing more content. So, you know, we can't compete with Spotify's and iTunes Radio and Pandora if all we do is play music. Kids can get their favourite song anywhere they want, anytime, in their pocket on their phone. So for us to stand out, we need really strong personalities, great shows that do compelling content. I mean, that's the win for us. And that's also how we can integrate advertisers. You know, advertisers don't want to buy spots anymore. They want to buy into our ideas, into our content. So I think radio stations that are just, you know, playing 10 songs in a row are going to struggle in the future.
I was talking to one of your colleagues earlier about how his station breaks the rules that we were actually taught by an older generation of Australians, which was that you can't have music and speech together. You're either all music or you're all speech. Yeah. And actually Australian radio is pointing in the opposite direction now, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's all open for innovation. I think that the station you're referring to is Triple M. And they've done an amazing job of creating a network around rock, sport, comedy, and they have breakfast shows that, you know, consistently will stop down a song if a story breaks and cut into that song with news. So that's exactly where we're heading.
Here's a real tough one, and finally, what's the best idea you've ever had?
Best idea I've ever had. That's a massive call. Look, I wouldn't claim any of the ideas as my own. I mean, I think I'm privileged to work in creative teams, and the best idea we've had recently was a segment called the Blackout Challenge, where we take the hosts of this drive show, blindfold them, put noise-cancelling headphones on them, put things up their nose so they can't smell, and drop them into different scenarios, and then take off their blindfold, and they have to just react, sink or swim, in the scenario that they're in. We film it, we record the audio, then we play it back online and on air. So things like, you know, people have taken off their blindfold and they're live on stage at a stand-up comedy venue, or they're in a boxing ring with a heavyweight boxer, or they have to do a Brazilian wax on a woman, or, you know, all sorts of crazy things. And it's just been a nice twist on that. Sort of, it's kind of like a prank. It's kind of like a few other different segments that we have, but it's really cut through. And the engagement online, on social, on air is fantastic.
And you are getting young people to listen to the radio, which we're constantly told will never happen again.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Hamish and Andy, which are a show that a lot of people know over here and hugely popular still in Australia. You know, most of their fan base, well, not most, but a lot of their fan base are teenagers. Absolutely love them. I think if you get the content right and you get the team and the talent right, you know, kids love content just as much as anyone else.
I'm really encouraged. I could talk to this man all day. Sam, thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Okay, very cool. Good little insight there. That's not quite nice. Hope you also see a little bit of a different perspective on how to approach certain things. There's a video over here, which I thought would be really cool. So we love Next Radio. In other words, this is I think this is Britain, right, in the UK. the same way that we might have, like you saw, the Radio Days Africa, just in Europe. We also have, as you know, Radio Days Africa here. Obviously, I said Africa, so where else are you gonna have it? But Radio Days. And then there is this next radio conference, which is very cool. Like I say, very interesting. If you have a moment, you should go and subscribe to the channel as I have, as you can see there. And constantly go have a look at, any updates that might come up. I like that little kind of very personal feel, but you can imagine it's kind of like a bit of a Comic Con where there are so many different people that are presenting at any one given time. I thought this would be nice for you to understand authentic presenting, right? So authentic broadcasting at the end of the day. And this uh, is a cool little talk, as you can
This
see
is
there.
Next Radio. With
Well, it's autoplay, it keeps on going, and that. Let me just switch that off because I was busy saying something. Anyway, so yes, I'm going to, there we go, 14 minutes over there, just to kind of close up the lesson, and then we'll move to lesson 18 afterwards. Let's enjoy. Uh, Here you go.
Broadcast Bionics. Innovative solutions for creative people.
Hi everyone, how is everyone doing? All right? This is the penultimate one today, so we'll be straight out of here afterwards, after with Helen as well. So I'm here today. I've been working with radio presenters my whole career, whether that be producing radio shows for the BBC or producing radio shows for commercial radio. And I did a stint as a talent manager as well, where I was coaching and developing presenters to be the best that they could be. Now, my current role is as content controller, or content controller, as I like to tell my bosses, at Key 103 in Manchester. And it's my job to make sure that the need to be able to do the job to the best of their ability on air on my station. And it was in this role about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was writing an email to a presenter who was coming to cover on the station. He'd never been on before. And I was doing the thing that you always do. You write the brief that is for your station. I've done this everywhere I've worked. And I was writing that list of, right, this is the station name, this is the station positioner, this is where the ads go, this is how much music you need to play, this is how long the links are. And the list went on and on and on. And at the bottom I went, but you know what? Just be yourself. Be yourself. Be real. The thing that every single person in this room loves about radio is the fact that it creates one-to-one real human connections. It is the core of what we do. And you know what? Radio is brilliant at it. TV is aware of the power of being real. Reality TV takes up all of our TV shows at the moment. But it's got to the point where, do you remember when they put like 10 people in a house and we were astonished at the fact that we watched them sleeping? We were like, oh my God, they're sleeping too? That was reality then. Now they're quite formatted, they're quite focus groups. The narrative is so familiar that I can watch X Factor with the sound off and I know what's going to happen next. And actually, radio is coming into some of that criticism as well. It's formatted. The focus groups are the one thing that we all go by. It's not creative. I'm not able to talk for long enough, a lot of presenters say. It's not creative. And it's got me wrestling with this thing. And this thought is, are we getting to a point now where we're smoothing and polishing our radio brands so much that we're in danger of losing sight of what is real? Now, I wanted to talk to you today about a technique that I use with my presenters that helps them to be themselves on the radio so that you all go away with something that you can use. And also to talk around the words courage and vulnerability. Now, courage and vulnerability to me are really important when it comes to creating human connection and being real. And this was never truer for me than when I thought I'd produce my last ever radio show. When I went to Six Music, I was incredibly nervous about the fact that I maybe didn't know as much about music as everybody else did in the room. I was really, really anxious about it. And on this particular weekend, we'd just gone up to Oxford Road for the summer. I was producing Weekend Breakfast. It was the first time that I'd been in the room at Six Music where there was no other staff in the offices. I was quite anxious. And it was the same weekend that those Norwegian terrorist attacks happened a few years ago. So there was the bomb in Oslo, and then there was a chap, a gunman, went into a summer camp and shot all those teenagers. And it was absolutely horrific. I'm going to have to move my mic because it's slipping down my back. It was absolutely horrific. The news bulletin at 7:30, which was our first news bulletin, all it had in it was this story. These teenagers had been shot, and it was absolutely awful. And the song that came out of the news on my watch was by this man. It was Jimi Hendrix, Hey Joe. And this is where I spot if there are any musos in the room. There's one. I heard a... For those of you that don't know, the first line of Jimi Hendrix's Hey Joe is, "Hey Joe, where are you going with that gun in your hand?" Oh my days. It was the most mortifying experience of my life. All I could think was, I'm going to be on Radio Fail in about 2 weeks' time. This is going to be awful. This is the worst thing that could possibly have happened. And the worst thing is that the iPlayer means that it's on there for 7 more days. I can't escape this. I was like, get it off. And the presenter in the other room was going, it's if we take it off, then it looks like we've made a mistake. I'm like, you think? We pulled it out in the guitar solo, which got us 6 complaints. 3 said, I can't believe how insensitive BBC Six Music has been for playing that out of that news story. And 3 that said, oh man, that was in the middle of air guitar in the kitchen. The point was, I had a choice. I'd made this huge error on the radio. I felt absolutely awful about it. I had a choice. Do I tell the truth? Do I be vulnerable? Do I have courage? Or do I blame someone else? Or do I pretend it never happened? Well, I chose to have courage, I chose to be vulnerable, and I chose to tell the truth. And the result was amazing. Up until that point, I didn't really know anyone at Six Music. As soon as I started sharing my mistake or my vulnerability, and I was like, oh God, I did this thing, the number of people who came back with me with their mistakes too. It was a real, true human connection. I found out about the person who'd said that Dave Grohl was dead when he wasn't. And I found about someone who played a song that was so awful that it was so inappropriate, it ended up in the sun. One of those people texted me this morning. That's how deep the connection I created was. And it is the key to being real. The key to creating that connection is courage and vulnerability. And these are words that I think, we talk about being real, we talk about being authentic. These are the key to it, these words. If you look at the word courage, when you break it down, what it actually means is to tell the truth about who you are with your whole heart. Now, I don't work for Global, and I'm in a very competitive market, but I had to keep the word heart on there. It seemed better than blood pump. And vulnerability is about uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. You put these 2 words together, and I think you get this: authenticity. The meaning of an authentic person, somebody who is willing to let go of who they thought they should be in order to be who they are. And this is something that I know everybody knows that they hear on the radio. They hear presenters who are doing the things that they think that they should be rather than being the person that they are. Even within the realities of the format, every single presenter can be who they are. When I came to work with Nimone at Six Music, she was definitely in this state. And before I move on, I spoke to her the other day and said, can I talk about you? She said, yeah, it's fine. So she was definitely in this state. She had a lot going on in her life. She just had a baby who was now 18 months old, and she was pregnant again. The show was obviously moving. There was talk about her going up to Salford. There were loads of things going on that she wanted to just keep off air. She wanted to protect her family and keep it off air, so she'd shut the door. And when you heard her on air at the time, it was very much doing the things that she thought she should be doing. So we started off on our journey and we addressed this, and she said herself that actually one of the things that she wanted to work on was this, telling her real life stories on air. And I was like, it's really easy, we just need to find ways of doing it. And then I stumbled across a TED Talk by a poet called Sarah Kay. Sarah Kay is an American poet, and she works with young people, teenagers, to get them to write poetry. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a teenager, probably the most expressive I got was, yeah, whatever. You just don't understand me. And that was probably about the size of it. So it's a tough crowd. And what she used is a list. We all love lists, right? The list of the 10 things you know to be true. And I went, boom, that's it. That's what we're going to do. So I went to see Nimone that week and I said, right, can you do me a list of the 10 things you know to be true about yourself? Steal and build, people. Steal and build. Tweak it a little bit. Make it your own. So she said, why? What do you want me to write? I said, I don't really know. I've not done it before. Just go away, do it, and see what happens, see what comes back. So she went away and she did it. And this was the kind of sort of thing that came back on it. A list. 10 things you need to be true about yourself. I know it's only 5. I'm only going to talk about some of them. I was like, what? There's a saxophone under your bed. You never told me this. What's going on? And she said, yeah, Ella found it the other day. And, I used to play in a band with the guys from Groove Armada. I was like, all right, okay, here we go. That's the stuff. That's what we want. So we developed a story arc out of it, and that's what we did. It gave me things to latch onto. They were unique, they were real, they were things she was prepared to talk about, and they were her vulnerabilities as well. So the saxophone became, has anyone got a dusty instrument under their bed texter that rolled into a story that ended up with her playing her saxophone again on air. She was sweating when she did it. She was freaked out by doing it. And with another artist that we brought in who challenged her to do it. It was the bit that they chose of her to put into the 10 years of Six Music, the best of show. It gave people something to latch onto about her, something that they could see into her world. And don't underestimate that she wrote I Love Dance Music up there. I don't know if it's clear to you now. But at the time, I knew that she liked dance music and that she used to work at KISS and that was dance music and all of that. But there were people in the building who didn't know. They had no idea that she had a thing for dance music and that she used to DJ and all of those things. So we started to build that into our repertoire. We did a feature called Vinyl Battleships where I labelled up her actual vinyl collection at home. And I got the listeners to sort of, you know, the Billy bookcase, everyone's got their vinyl collection in a Billy bookcase, right? It's all those squares, yeah? I labelled them up A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3, 4 down the side. And the listeners chose a square. And I told her to record herself in the kitchen, pulling out the records. And you could hear the noise of the records, and everyone loves that, don't they? And telling the stories of where she'd played them and what she'd done and where she'd got it. And it just reconnected her. And in truth, she completely lit up. Now, she didn't come up to Salford, so she gave up on the weekend breakfast show. But what she did get was a dance music show that now she does every single week, and it's absolutely brilliant. And I spoke to her the other day, as I said, to say, listen, I'm going to talk about you. Is that all right? It's going to be on the internet and everything. She said, it's absolutely fine. I really loved the experience, she said as well. And you know what? I'd stopped DJing at the time. I'd stopped going out. I'd stopped playing out live. And now I play all the time. She is connected with the person that she is, with her passions, and she's now putting them on the radio and going out and doing it in life as well. Now, this list might seem really simple to you. You might go, oh, right, okay, yeah, just a list, isn't it? But actually, as a producer, it's really, really helpful. From the person who came to me and said, I'm tight, that now does money-saving expert features, all the way through to, I had this week where one of my presenters revealed that they were massively into home improvement. I thought, oh, for crying out loud, I could have really do with knowing that when we had a building merchants come to us the other week and want to do some S&P with us. Those things that you'll get are always going to be unique. If I asked you to do it today, even if I asked you to do it again in 3 weeks' time, the answers would be slightly different. But it's about getting under that layer. Some presenters bring you 6 things. They go, yeah, that's enough. That's all you're having. You're all you're getting of me. Some presenters bring 10. The first 3 things you know to be true yourself and are completely obvious, like, so I'm not actually 33, I'm 37. You're like, yeah, come on, we knew that. Some people, like me, when I do this, I go, love me, love me, love me. Here's 20 things I know to be true about myself. And my record, my favourite one, my record is 38 things I know to be true about myself. But the most important thing was that I said to him, right, of those 38 things, how much of that is going on air? How much do your listeners know? And he went, when we went back through it, he went, oh, 2. So, personal connection is the key, being personal, is the key to creating connection. And I had a presenter do this to me once, this comedian. He said, it's true in comedy too, Kate. He bounded out of the studio and he went, right, you won't believe the show we just had. It's been amazing. It's true. The more personal you get, you find this in stand-up as well, the more people react, the more they connect. And I was like, finally, he's got it. And then he said, so tomorrow I'm going to do a texter about the shape of my pubes. No, don't do that. Please do not do that. But yeah, I think the biggest challenge I find now, and I'm sure that there are other programmers in the room as well, that with the way that the radio industry is going, you know, we are networking and we are doing more and more and more, there are less places for us to develop talent. And it's a real challenge to find people to put on the radio who are of a good standard, who are able to connect with those vulnerabilities and are able to express them with courage. The opportunities that we have as programmers and producers is to develop those things out of people. And that list is just a way to get people to talk, a way to get people to reveal themselves to you so that you can then actually encourage, support, and let them go and do the things that they do best. And I still absolutely believe that the reason that we're doing it is to create those human connections, and that's everything that we're doing on a day-to-day basis with techniques like this. Thanks so much. This was the hardest thing I've done since giving birth, so thank you. And if someone could buy me a drink afterwards, that'd be great.
This is Next Radio.
So good. So good. Really enjoyed that. Very cool. Man, yeah, just very cool. She's so well spoken as well. For me personally, I'm like, she hasn't used one crutch word, nothing. And she doesn't even have notes, man. That's crazy. And she's like I say, she quote unquote a producer working in the background. Sidebar, very cool, very nice. Going to definitely bookmark that even just for some of the other classes, but great exercise as well. So, taking those aspects of any one given person and seeing whether you can actually develop great ideas for them. I think we'll do that. We'll just kind of like put a bit of a post-it on it. So just uh, you know, um, you know, just stick it up somewhere and leave it for when I do see you or revisit that. But try to think of it for yourself. I hope that was inspirational, and hope that made you think in a different way, a slightly different way, and approach personalities and your own personality in a new, fresh way. Okay, let's end this lesson here. I'll see you for lesson 18.